This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Well, you are in the right place. We are here with leadership expert, leadership guru, leadership savior, and smart person of the week, JLynne Croneberger. How are you, my friend?
Good, David. How are you?
So tell us a little bit about how you came to do the work that you're doing, and then we'll use that as the springboard for what's cooking today and a little go behind the scenes about your business, your clients, and how you're helping them in this crazy upside down environment.
So I think I can look at leadership from a standpoint of going way back. I got my master's degree in sports and human performance psychology. And so I started working with teams and athletes and coaches and the whole thing. And I started to realize a little bit into that from the pro athlete to the 7-year-old, it was all the same stuff. And I really started to kind of pick that apart and realize it wasn't even about sports. I mean, some of it, of course, was, but really the core of what we talked about and what we worked on was about being a human being. It's about, how we recover after mistakes. It was about confidence. It was about character. It was about leadership. It was, how we show up every day. So I thought, you know what, there's something to this. And I started to bring it over into the corporate world probably now, 10, 12 years ago. And it worked. It really worked. And people loved it. And they thought, you know what, there's a refreshing kind of, underlying tone of this, that it's about a human being and that it's kind of a universal message. So I was able to kind of utilize that in both speaking and in doing some consulting and coaching work.
Let's talk about when people typically pick up the big red phone and call you. Because I think a lot of folks are wrestling with, oh gosh, my topic is a nice to have versus my topic is a really have to have. And you've always been specializing in the have to have topics, right? I mean, mission critical, crisis situations, or strengthening a leadership team or a leadership culture to avoid crisis situations so they don't get blindsided, they don't get caught off guard, they don't get sideswiped by economy up, economy down, talent shortage, talent glut, whatever it might be, but really helping them think strategically about their leadership practices and people practices. And as you say, how they can humanize their leadership for good times and bad. What are some initiatives? What are some urgencies that, as with someone that has your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there, what are some emerging issues as they're coming across your radar?
Before our lovely pandemic situation?
Either way, we'll do before, we'll do after.
Okay. Because I'm seeing similar things, but more urgency in some things, right? So I think probably going into this over the last 2 years, maybe 3, there's been an increase in compassion, in wanting to learn. A lot of the pieces of consulting and coaching and speaking, even the past few years, has really been focused on compassionate leadership, on understanding empathy, understanding the difference between inclusion and belonging, and really starting to kind of push towards belonging as much as we can. There's this real epidemic facing us as of the last couple of years into now, and the epidemic is loneliness. And so I did a lot of research on that and started to dig into that a little bit and really started to understand that that's a universal issue that we're dealing with right now. Psychologists around the globe are saying that it's an epidemic. And, they've been equating it to, it's the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it's, harder on your body than obesity. And, it goes on and on and on. But the thing that really stuck out to me in all of that was that the growing number of people facing or reporting chronic loneliness were 16 to 24-year-olds. That number is on the rise. So I took all of that and I started to really say, we have work to do. And if we can really work on this compassion and empathy and belonging model, we're going to be able to eradicate that a lot quicker. Now we move into today where we sit, and that's only growing rapidly because you have people now having to isolate themselves, having to not be in connection with other people. And we all know that that's what changes it. So I have a feeling that this is only going to get worse as we go. And I think it's going to be important to really focus on learning how to do that and learning how to do it effectively, because I truly believe that's the answer. And so I'm seeing leaders call me, email me, say, you know what, we need this right now. We need to know, how do I stay or build connection with my employees who aren't in the workplace with me right now? We're all sitting in our own homes. How do I try to continue connection and belonging with people who are all in different houses? And that's a struggle. That's a struggle, but that's one that we've been working on.
And you know this, and I know this because we're in the thought leadership business, and we know how these things connect to bottom line performance. But just like Denzel Washington said, tell it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Because when we say words like compassion, belonging, empathy, people think, oh, that's woo-woo, that's squishy, that's for the HR people. I'm not going to worry about that. But you and I know that that is the solid foundation upon which high performance, resilience, organizational strength, individual leadership strength are based on those pillars. Talk a little bit more about the connection between what might sound like a soft topic, but is really the foundation of everything related to performance, results, and success, especially under duress and under craziness.
Here's just a sample. I have many of file folders worth of articles of things that say why compassion and love is critical in the workplace. Not just important, critical in the workplace today. And it's things like Forbes magazine, the Harvard Business Review, Psychology Today. I mean, you're looking at, publications and research that has been done. It's been done across the board. And it comes back saying the ROI is huge on this. To be able to say, all of the different numbers of employee call outs, employee turnover. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Engagement, even just employees that actually want to come to work. The 2017 Gallup, the State of the Workplace poll, stated that 85% of all employees who were, I guess, surveyed said that they are either disconnected sometimes at work or not engaged at all. So that says to me, there's only 15% of the workforce that is really connected and really engaged all day. And so I actually took a little poll. I went on Facebook. This was a couple of years ago now when I first started studying this. And it was a Friday afternoon at 2:30. And I was meeting with two of my colleagues. We were talking about this kind of stuff. And I posted a poll. I said, let's just ask, right? Let's meet them where they are. We don't work in a corporate environment anymore. So why don't we ask the people who do? So I went on my personal Facebook page and I typed, taking a poll, what leads to you being more engaged at your job? Very simple question. That was it. There was no, kind of pointing or anything. Within 1/2 hour, I had 74 comments. Now, this was a Friday afternoon at 2:30. Are you picking up what I'm putting down, right? So that in and of itself told a story. And then, the second piece to that was really eye-opening was that not one of those things had anything to do with money. Not one. And what we've seen in the research that comes in at, all across the board with this, when you ask mid to C-suite level management and leaders, they believe that most people leave for a paycheck. And so when surveyed why people left their last jobs, the number one answer by far was loss of trust and confidence in senior leadership. So I said, okay, we're going to fix that. That's what we're working on. So, I mean, the numbers are there. The stats are there. The information is there. They've done the research. The data doesn't lie. So, I look at that and say, this is my wheelhouse.
Right, for sure. Now, let's talk about how we deliver this. So you could work with a company, an organization for an hour or a year or more than a year, multi-year. What are the various levels of support and mentoring, teaching, executive leadership support where you're installing this new operating system
Mhm.
into their company, into their leaders, into the whole team, every leader at every level? How does it work? Small, medium, large, and supersize.
So there are times for companies that they just decide, we want to have an outside speaker come in and just kind of speak to us for an hour for, whatever. Of course I can do that. That's easy. However, that's just kind of, painting a little picture. It's creating some awareness, saying, hey, this is an issue. But that's not enough time, obviously, to solve the problem, right? So I can tell you there's a problem there, and that's great, but that's all we got there. So then moving on into, I've done full day, kind of get my hands in and start to do some stuff, some workshop, seminar type stuff when we sit and actually do the work and, kind of masterminds and stuff like that. And I can do those, multiple times and all of that. But I still feel like the way that I've seen most of this kind of transfer into the workplace to be able to be done properly is different kinds of consulting packages that I've done with some different clients. So you could do a year, you could do a half a year, you could do, over a year. It doesn't matter. It's how we can kind of see, okay, what's the best way to do this and make it stick? Because that's the most important thing. Nothing else matters if it doesn't, change some of the behaviors.
Right, for sure. One of your brands that you put some nice energy into is the 5 words. Tell us about where that came from, what
Yeah.
that is, and how that feeds into your work.
Absolutely. So the 5 words started in my sports psychology life. And I was working with a pro baseball player actually. And he called me one day right before spring training, which so sad that there's no baseball right now because that's my thing. Anyway, but he called me and asked, he said, you know what, Jen, I'm heading into my first spring training game and I'm nervous. What can you give me? And I said, well, Matt, why do you play? And he said, because I love it. I said, okay, so you're going to go into this game and I'm going to make sure that, you have a mantra. So when you're in a bad place, you're going to say this to yourself over and over. And I said, just use these words for love of the game. And I have no clue why I counted. I am not a numbers person. I was an English major. So that was like way beyond me. For some reason, I'm like, that's interesting. There's your 5 words. And then I thought, okay. So then the next day he called me back and he said, you know what, that worked. Give me something else. And I'm thinking in my head, like, well, don't change it if it worked, right? Like, why? But I gave him another kind of, mantra to use. And again, it was 5 words. And I thought, okay, there must be something to this. So I started to kind of dig into that a little bit. And I started to see how, the brain works and all of those little mysteries. And so it became my thing. I was working with a pro softball team. And right before they'd go out into a game, they'd come into the locker room. We would meet and we would come up with their 5 words and I'd post them on the wall before they walked out. And a lot of them would touch it. The pitchers would write it on their arms. Like it was a big deal. And so it just kind of grew from there. So when I wrote my first book, it's called These 5 Words Are Mine. Every chapter heading is 5 words. And so that's kind of how that kind of became a thing. And since then, I've used it all the time. One of my things that I speak on is these 5 C words, so it's just kind of been a theme for me. And I feel like there's definitely a psychological thing there because it's a little bit more and people feel kind of like, okay, I got this and this is my thing. So it works.
Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless. I'll tell you what I love about this. I mean, I love everything about what you're saying, but this is simplicity in the face of extreme stress and extreme complexity, right?
Exactly.
If I can just hang on to for love of the game,
That's right.
that's why I'm here. That's why I'm hitting. That's why I'm focusing on my teammates. That's why this initiative is important. That's why I'm going to stay an extra hour at my desk.
Yep.
That's why I'm not going to goof around when the kids and the dog and everyone's coming into the office because everyone's homeschooling and working remote. That's why I'm going to finish that report. That's why I'm going to make that one extra call at the end of the day to one extra prospect, because I love the game. I love the company. I love our products and services. I love just doing the work that I was meant to do. When we talk about simplicity in the face of crisis and critical situations, fast forward now to the current crisis that we're in, and who knows how long it's going to last. What would you encourage an executive or a C-suite leader who might be listening to really think, stop, pattern interrupt, and say, you think you're too busy. You think your hair's on fire. You think you have all these other things you have to work on. But if you don't support and love on your people, and you don't get some help and structure for them to support and love on their people, right, at every layer in the organization, the wheels are going to fall off the bus. So what I'm saying is, what would you say as far as an objection buster of why some of your programs and some of your fantastic client successes can be directly translated, and it's a now more than ever sort of thing, and it's not, oh, hey, once the skies clear up, then we'll buy umbrellas for everybody.
Right, exactly. To that point, that's kind of the base of that answer. People are going through a really hard time right now. Whatever they do for work, everybody's in it. So I think there's this feeling of, you're right, like my hair's on fire, I'm going this way, and I can't do anything else. The issue with that is the mentality of, I can't do anything else, then puts your people at risk, because the people who are working for you also feel the same way, and stressed and anxious and, all of it. And so when they're doing their work from home, is it more distracting at home or less distracting, right? So, I mean, there might be the random one or two people who are really laser focused at home more than they are in the office. Great. That's awesome. But that's not the norm. And so all of these people who have all of these things flying in, if as a leader you knew that you could help them through this, I would have to think, unless you're not the right leader for anything, I'd have to think that you would care. You would have some sort of feeling of empathy and compassion, and all of the things that I mentioned, all those statistics of being engaged and, all of that stuff, that if you knew that comes out of really taking a minute to take care of your people first, and you knew you were going to get way more from them, I would think that you would want to do that. And the interesting thing is, now when people are starting to see that, I'm starting to get these messages like, you know what, we might need to talk, sooner than later, because, this is a tough time and I need support as a leader to help my people get through this. And you're right, you do. And it just so happens that I know how to do that.
This reminds me of one of the Navy SEALs mantras, right? Navy SEALs always sent into some kind of critical situation. Yep. People are, in fact, shooting at their heads. So luckily, we don't have that going on right now.
Right.
But one of the Navy SEAL mantras is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So in other words, if you want an end result to happen faster, slow down. Slow down, look at your environment, look at your team, look at your resources, look at what those resources need, put those things in place, and bam, you get the job done. So riff on that a little bit with me about slow is smooth and smooth is fast, and how that impacts the clients that you work with in terms of leadership in a crisis.
So what came to my mind just when you started talking about that was, as many years of softball, I coached for a long time. And, I used to do private lessons for pitchers and hitters. And the interesting thing in all of that is there were a lot of, these younger kids who would tighten up and try to do something really quickly. And the problem with that is, the smoother you are, the more you're just like a whip with your arm, with your, all of it. It's relaxed and you can't do anything tight. Your body doesn't work that way. And that goes for any sport and, quite frankly, anything. And so speaking to that, I think I've seen that. I've seen that to be true, whether it's physically in a sport or mentally in a sport. And, that's the other piece of that is, again, that all transfers over into what we're doing every day because our mind and body are connected. And so when we're rigid and we're, trying to move too fast, we know what happens with that. Nothing good. Nothing good really comes out of that. So I totally agree with you. It's the slow down, take a breath, pause, and then move forward with a plan and a way to help your people and yourself take step-by-step action to get to where you want to go. If you were having to walk through a ridiculous rocky forest kind of situation on a hike, I don't know about you, but I'm not running through that.
You might want a guide.
Yeah, that's right. I want a guide, and I certainly want to slow down and watch my footing.
What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. I mean, this reminds me not to press this point, but I think it's really important for all of us in all areas of our lives and businesses and professions. People say, oh my God, my hair's on fire. I have to go, go, go. My urgent number one, my only priority is to fix this problem or this issue or this challenge. And it's like saying, my hair's on fire, but I can't talk to the firefighter.
Right.
Right? Or I'm horribly sick, don't have time to go to the doctor.
Right.
We need to get the help that we as leaders need and that our team needs to be more effective. So, parting words of wisdom in this crisis crazy upside down mode, where should executives and leaders be looking for help? What sort of questions should they be asking of their team to foster a little bit more compassion and empathy and belonging when everyone's remote? It's the worst possible time. Everyone's highly stressed out. I know that's 3 questions all rolled into one.
Yeah.
Address any or all of them to your liking.
So one of the things that I've been using that has really, really worked lately, and it feels good for me and it feels good to the people that I talk to, when you're in situations like this, one thing we forget to do often is to just ask questions, right? We make assumptions, we just breeze through. We might think that they're ridiculous, really simple, dumb questions, but really, they're the important ones. Like, how are you doing? And mean it, not just like, hey, how are you? And you walk away. It's, how are you really doing? How are you managing? So one of the questions that I've kind of taken from that and a ton of reading through this exact thing, what could I use to make that a really standard, easy way to support my people? Here's the question that works. What would support look like here? That's like mind blowing. Because it takes the something's wrong with you away. It takes the, I'm going to try to help you or fix you or, it's not that. It's what would support look like right now? To me, that has been the most powerful question that I've been using. And so even just a simple thing like that, start asking your team, what would support look like right now? For them to be able to tell you, because you know what, again, we make assumptions like, oh, they're fine, they're always strong, they don't need it, or let me dive in with this person who's like, whoa, I'm good, why don't you ask? Because we think that they might need something, but they really need something else. So I think that's the first thing. And then really focusing on not just doing that one time but making that a practice, and making that a practice for them to ask each other. It's kind of simple, but it works.
I'm sure it's not lost on you that what would support look like 5 words.
Of course it is.
Ba-boom. There you go.
There you go.
Well, JLynne Croneberger, tell people how can they get connected and stay connected to more of your brilliance? Websites, resources, find you on LinkedIn. Where can we link up people when they go right under this episode at thespeakingshow.com? We're going to put all of your links and goodies. Where can we send them?
So the website is www.the5words.com, and it's all spelled out, not the number. Interestingly enough, my last TEDx talk was back in November, and I spoke on a topic that some people are like, were you foreshadowing this? This is really kind of crazy how much this applies today. And that's why I want to share it. If you go to YouTube, it's on there. If you look at my name and put TEDx, I've done 4. But the one that is really important right now is the one just from November about compassionate leadership and how compassion and empathy will change the world. And it's pretty amazing how much it fits right now. So I want to share that with you for sure. And I'm going to give you an email, jen@the5words.com. And I'm happy to send out, I got some freebies, some, things that might be helpful right now. Happy to do that. Happy to send it out and touch base with you. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Jen Croneberger. And I am on Facebook, Jennifer Lynne, Lynne, Croneberger. You can find me there too. So
Awesome.
I'm all over.
You're everywhere. I'm everywhere. You're just like Visa. Everywhere we want to be.
That's right.
Love it. Well, Jen Croneberger, thank you for being on with us. Awesome interview. Thank you. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.